Hey everyone, this is BearKiller777. This is a quick reply to be afraid, be very afraid, one world global system. That's a great video, Shock. I agree with most of the points you make here. Um, and I'm not, and just to start off, I'm not saying that I totally think that they will happen, but I think being afraid is not a good way to go about this. And the reason I'm saying this is because the verse in Scripture says, if God is for us, who can be against us? So those of us who are Christian, you know, God's for us. It's not, we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry about our family. If you have a job, you, even if you lose your job, God's going to supply, help, you know. I mean, when the Israelites in the desert, for 40 days, they got manna. They didn't have to worry about that. They didn't have to go, oh no, let's be afraid and let's sit here and hope and get really afraid and maybe something will happen out of the afraid effect. No, they trusted in God. They didn't they didn't do that. I mean, definitely it's going to happen, but just because it's going to happen doesn't mean we need to suddenly be afraid. I mean, there were certain end times things that were supposed to happen with the last president. Now, a couple of them were rumors, nevertheless, but they didn't happen. They were all scare tactics to scare people. Does that mean that scare tactics are the best way to approach this? No, I do not believe that scare tactics are a good way to approach this topic. And the reason I'm saying this is because scare tactics doesn't exactly work on getting the truth out. It doesn't. It doesn't matter what subject it is. It could be end times prophecy. It could be news. It could be fiction. Whatever subject. Scare tactics never works. There's one particular radio show I'm thinking of. I'm not going to mention the host's name because I think he's a fearmonger. It's a New World Order against talking about the New World Order. I'm sure if you've sort of heard of InfoWars. I used to listen to that. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, everyone that's watching, that I didn't watch it but it wasn't edifying. It wasn't. It was a salesman presentation of someone trying to scare me into submission to what their statements. For example, the host would say things like, okay, and now what is someday if there's going to be guards knocking on your door with an M16 rifle or other gun, whatever, and knock down your door and do all these things. Now, do those things happen? No, none of these things ever happen. There have been many scare tactics that have been used through all things that have never worked. Scare tactics don't work as they are intended. What they usually do is they drive people away from it. I think the way we should go about this is rather than telling others to be scared, we should tell others the gospel of peace that brings reconciliation to God and to His Son. It's not about we can't scare people into the gospel. We can't. I can't sit here and point a gun in someone's face and tell them, now, if you don't do this, I will I will pull this trigger here. That you can't forcibly tell someone by threat or any means of fear tactics to believe a particular set of rules of under submission. You can't. People are going to have to, they're gonna you can tell them these things, but they're gonna eventually have to make their own choices and their own minds. So, I do agree with the point. I'm not saying I don't agree. But what I am saying is that we should tell others, continuing to tell them about the gospel and spreading it through YouTube and through local community and through your local church. And that's what I am saying is that we need to bring this message of peace, the message that, that there is still time, that before, Christ comes back to establish his church through the end times in Revelation. There is still time. People still can be saved. There is still time. The time is short, yes. I'm not saying the time is not short. What I am saying is that rather than using this time and expending it on our resources of scaring others like a boogeyman, and I go, hoo hoo hoo, I'm going to scare you, and I'm going to give you these things that are scary, perhaps in some way, shape, or form, to make you believe. Now, you can't scare anyone into believing gospel. The gospel is it's to those who are being saved the power of God, but to those who are not, it is foolish. So, I mean, if you're trying to scare people, I don't know if that's the right motive that Christ would have used. I think he would use a more loving approach. That yes, we do need to tell them the truth. Time is short. I'm not saying time is not short. What I am saying, though, is that what we do with our time needs to be spent in a loving fashion, showing our love for Christ to others, so that they can see Christ in us. Now, are they going to see that love by fear tactics? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not arguing whether your motivation, your video. I completely agree. Time is short. The end times will happen. We can't stop it. Now, should we sit here all day and put these bricks up around our house in hermits and not negotiate with society and be afraid? I don't think so. I think we can go about this in a loving fashion. Now, will people be killed? Certainly. I am not saying anything against you. I completely agree. You have very, very good, valid points that people do need to know the truth, but how they know the truth is portrayed as to how you come across them. So if I give you a piece of bread, I give you this bread in a loving manner. I don't force it down your throat and go, okay, here's this bread, I'm going to choke you now. Okay? Choke please, okay? No, I go, here's this bread. Now, if you're hungry, you take this bread and you eat it. You eat of it. Jesus said if you give even a cup of water to the ones whom you love, it'll be like they can glorify God through giving through others a cup of water in a loving way. In the same way, we need to give this end times prophecy and news in a loving way. It's not forcing. Okay, I'm forcing my hand to this camera, to forcing them to buy something. I go, here's the gospel, and I go and I present it in a loving way for the glory of God. And okay, looks like my 10 minutes is up. That's all I wanted to say. All right. Thanks for your video. Bye.